On March 28, 2019, Samantha Josephson was trying to enjoy a night out with friends at the Bird Dog Bar in downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Around 2 a.m., she decided it was time to leave, so she called an Uber. Samantha was never seen alive again. Let's get into it. Samantha Josephson was born on August 13, 1997 in Princeton, New Jersey, but grew up in Robbinsville, New Jersey when she was a child. She was a student at the University of South Carolina majoring in political science. Samantha was scheduled to graduate in June 2019 with plans to attend Drexel University, Thomas R. Klein School of Law in Philadelphia, for which she had earned a full 4-year scholarship. Her dream was to become a lawyer specializing in international law. Samantha was smart, kind, and outgoing and was going to make a positive impact on the world. She was a member of the Alpha Gamma Delta sorority, studied abroad in Barcelona, and visited Madrid and Paris during her time at South Carolina. Samantha was the pride and joy to her parents, Seymour and Marcy Josephson, and a great role model to her sister, Sydney Josephson. Samantha lived in downtown South Carolina with her roommates at The Hub, a high-rise apartment building that housed USC students. On March 29, 2019, around 12:40 a.m., Samantha and her roommates went to the Bird Dog Bar at the Five Point District in downtown Columbia, South Carolina, to celebrate the completion of finals and her admission to law school. While at the bar, Samantha remained in contact with her boyfriend, Greg. Greg and Samantha had been in a close and loving relationship since the spring of 2017, and at this time he was living in Charleston, South Carolina. Samantha wanted Greg to come and celebrate with her, but the drive was 2.5 hours and Samantha was coming to visit with him in a couple days. So he encouraged her to go out and have some fun because she deserved it. Around 2 a.m., Samantha was tired and had to work the next day, so she decided to leave the bar. She contacted an Uber and went outside of the bar to wait for its arrival. While waiting, she was on the phone with Greg. At 2:09 a.m., a black Chevy Impala pulls up. Samantha, thinking it was her Uber, gets in the car. Greg and Samantha shared their locations with each other. He notices that the Uber was going in the opposite direction than the apartments that Samantha lived in. Not sure what was going on, he called and texted Samantha multiple times with no response. Then suddenly, her location stopped sharing. Greg thought she had just maybe left her phone in the Uber, so he contacted one of her roommates who also had her location, but she hadn't heard from Samantha either. Greg finally went to bed, remaining positive and just thinking that he was just overacting. It is now the early morning of March 30, 2019. Greg had awakened to missed calls from Samantha's roommate saying that when they got home, Samantha was not in her room and her job said that she did not show up for work. When they checked her computer, they learned that because she did not show up, her Uber was canceled. Greg immediately felt ill because he was on the phone with Samantha right until she got in the car that she thought was her Uber driver. Her roommates contacted the police while Greg contacted Samantha's parents and prepared to make the drive to Columbia, South Carolina. Surveillance video was obtained by law enforcement from the area around the Bird Dog Bar and showed a black Chevy Impala driving around the location. Spots Samantha standing outside the bar alone. It then makes a U-turn and comes back around to where she's at. It pulls up in front of her and Samantha gets in the back seat of the black Chevy Impala. Samantha's parents was in the process of driving the 12-hour drive from Princeton, New Jersey to Columbia, South Carolina. Meanwhile, a BOLO, be on the lookout, was issued for a black Chevy Impala. Law enforcement, meanwhile, checked Samantha's bank records and learned that someone attempted to use her ATM card twice. Once in Columbia, South Carolina, and the second time was at an ATM that was 43 miles away. When they viewed surveillance footage from both banks, they were able to determine who may have been driving the Chevy Impala. Footage showed a male wearing dark clothing, a pair of gloves, a bandana was covering his face, and he had his hood over his head using his drawstrings to help cover his face. Hours had passed with no luck in finding Samantha until a body was discovered by two turkey hunters around 4 p.m., 65 miles away from Columbia, South Carolina, in a town called Mount Zion, South Carolina, that matched Samantha's description and later identified to be her. Samantha's parents, family, Greg, and roommates were in disbelief to learn of Samantha's death. Police continued to be on the lookout for a black Chevy Impala. Around 3 a.m. the next morning, an officer saw a car matching the description circling around the 5 Points area, so he proceeded to stop the vehicle. The black Chevy Impala pulls over. The driver is asked to get out of the car after he is not able to produce ID. Once he is out of the car, the officer begins to explain that he pulled him over because his car matched the description of a vehicle that they were looking for. The driver takes off running, but quickly cut off by another officer a few blocks over and arrested. Our track star was 24-year-old Nathaniel Rowland. During a search of his black Chevy Impala, officers found bleach, cleaning wipes, window cleaner, blood in the passenger seat and in the trunk, a footprint on the window, a pink keychain, and an iPhone in the passenger side door that had a rose gold case on it. The blood in the car was massive. It was also found in the back seat, the back of the driver's seat, back of the headrest, and inside the doors. Nathaniel refused to cooperate with being questioned by police. During his interrogation, he told police that he wasn't involved and he didn't want to talk and acted as if he just wanted to sleep. But law officers got what they need after speaking with Marie Howard, Nathaniel's girlfriend. Marie told them that Nathaniel had picked her up from work on March 28, and when they got to her house, they talked until she fell asleep. She woke up to get ready for work. Nathaniel was not there at first, but showed up around 8 a.m.
Where is he there when you wake up?
No.
And what time did you wake up?
I have to be to work around 7, so I wake up around 5:30, 6 o'clock.
And so around 5:30, 6 o'clock, he's not there.
No, ma'am.
Was that what you expected?
No.
What did you expect?
Him to be there.
Why?
Because he told me he was going to be there when I wake up.
And why? Or had you asked him to be there when you woke up?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because I don't like staying by myself.
Okay. And had he made you any promises about staying?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
What did he told you?
That he would be there when I wake up.
But he wasn't.
But he wasn't.
So what did you do when you woke up and he wasn't there?
I called his phone and I texted him.
Did you get a response?
No.
Okay. So you said you called and you texted his phone. Did he have more than one phone or just one phone?
More than one phone.
Do you remember how many he had?
2.
Did you try to call both or
Yes,
just
ma'am.
one? Did you get a response on either phone?
No, ma'am.
All right. So how did you feel about that?
I was upset because I knew I had to go to work, and I don't like being late for work.
Okay. So what did you do?
I called my mom, and by the time I got off the phone with my mom, he was pulling in the driveway.
Do you remember what time that was?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Was it after you were supposed to have already been at work?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were supposed to be at work at 7?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did you do how did you know he'd gotten there? Start there.
I looked out the window and I seen his car out there.
So could you see your front yard from your window?
Yes, ma'am.
Which
the front
window?
The front window.
Okay. Like your bedroom front window, your living room?
Living room.
Okay. So what do you do when you see him?
I went outside to ask him where my shirt was.
And I'm going to stop a little bit. When you see him pull up, what is he driving?
His black Impala.
Okay. And you go outside, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
And what do you say?
Where's my work shirt?
Because did you have your uniform?
I had my pants and my shoes on, but I didn't have my shirt because he was supposed to wash it.
And did he have it?
Yes, but it was wet.
It was wet. Did you tell him or say anything to him about that?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
Why is my shirt wet? When you said you was gonna dry my clothes, wash my shirt and dry it.
What'd he say?
Nothing really.
Okay. And let me ask you this, were you real nice about the way you asked, or were you upset?
I was upset.
And does it give you your shirt?
Yes, ma'am.
You said that. And so what do you do at that point?
She also testified that when he showed up at the house, he had on the same clothes and that her work visor was missing from the back seat of the car.
I asked him for my work hat.
And tell the jury, what's your work hat?
It's like a sun visor with an M on it.
And I'm going to repeat what you said because you mumbled a little bit. Did you say it was a visor?
Yes, with an M on it for McDonald's.
And where had you left that visor?
In the back window.
Of what?
His car.
Of what
Next
kind of car?
His Impala.
Okay. And when had you left it there?
The day before when he picked me up.
And where did you leave it?
In the back window.
So what, if anything, did you expect about that visor when he showed up? Where did you expect it to be?
In the window.
Was it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ask him about that?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he tell you?
That it was in the country.
And what did you say to that?
Why would it be in the country?
And what did he tell you?
It had blood on it.
I'm gonna need you to repeat that.
It had blood on it.
He told you that the visor had blood on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ask him, what'd you ask him?
Why would the hat have blood on it?
And what'd he tell you? You tell me.
Mind my business.
Mind your business. Did you ask him again?
Yes.
And what'd he tell you?
Mind my business.
So he had your shirt but not your hat, so what'd you do?
I called my job and told my boss that I was on the way, and she had an extra hat for me.
And so what'd you do?
I left my house to go to work.
Were you able to go straight to his car?
Yes. No.
What happened?
He left and said that he had to take his nephew to school.
So after he shows up, he leaves again?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did you do when he left?
I went out the door and I shut the door behind me, and I didn't know I had to unlock the door. So I had to go to my neighbor's house and wait for him to get back.
Where were your keys?
In his car.
And so you wait with your neighbor, I think you just said?
Yes, ma'am.
How long is he gone?
Like 10 minutes
How long? And you said he went to go get his nephew?
to take his nephew to school.
Do you know where was his nephew in the car?
No,
Do you know where his nephew lived?
on Rosewood.
How long does it take to go from your house to the nephew's house?
Like from Leesburg to Rosewood, that's like 30 minutes.
So did he
With
have
traffic.
time to go from your house to his nephew's in that 10 minutes?
No.
So he leaves and comes back.
Yes, ma'am.
Had he already given you your shirt at that point?
No.
So when does
I
he?
put my shirt on in the car.
So when you said he gave you back your shirt wet, was that before or after the first time he shows up at your house that morning?
The second time.
So the first time, I just want to make sure we got the timeline right. You ask him where it is,
Yes, ma'am.
and then the second time is when he actually gives it to you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And it's wet?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what do you do with your wet shirt?
I had to put it on because I had to get to work.
And does he take you to work?
We went to the convenience store because he had to get gas on Leesburg.
Okay.
She also stated that there was dried blood on the dashboard and a sheet on part of the back seat.
And what, if anything, did you notice about the car at that point?
That it was like dry blood in the car.
Where in the car?
On the dashboard and beside the seats.
When you say the dashboard, what are you talking about?
Where the airbags are.
Like the console, the
Yes,
back seat
ma'am.
console? Okay. And where else did you see blood?
In the back seat.
In the back seat. Was anything else in the back seat?
It was a sheet over the back seat and the back of the driver's seat.
And how do you mean there was a sheet?
It was kind of like covering, but it wasn't all the way covering the seat.
Okay, was it like draped on the seat so you could see the outline of the seat, or was it above the seat, or describe
Just
that?
like through over the seat where you can't see.
Okay. Could you see anything in the back seat besides the sheet?
Blood
Where did you see blood then?
on the seat.
On the seat. Okay. Not the part that was covered, or was it under the? Could you see through the sheet?
Like the part of the seat that wasn't covered, you could see blood.
Okay. What did you do when you saw the blood?
I asked him, why is it blood in the car? Did you hit a dog?
And what did he say?
Mind my business.
She also told them that she later seen him cleaning his car and a knife with bleach. After obtaining a search warrant of Maria's home, police found bloody clothing, cleaning supplies, a bandana, a multi-purpose tool, which was found to be the murder weapon, and bloody paper towels. All the items tested positive for Samantha's blood. Meanwhile, police also learned that Nathaniel tried to sell Samantha's phone at a cell phone repair store. When viewing surveillance from the repair store, footage shows the same male wearing the same clothing as they saw in the footage from the banks. Nathaniel was arrested and charged with kidnapping and murder. For fleeing from the police, the Columbia Police Department also charged Rowland with the failure to stop and possession of a weapon during the commission of a crime. Samantha was not able to get out the car because once she closed the door, Nathaniel put the child safety locks on. The autopsy report stated that Samantha had 120 stab wounds. One attack happened to go through her right hand as she was trying to protect herself. She was also stabbed in the head. The knife went through her skull all the way to her brain. One of the main arteries that carried blood flow to her head was cut. Samantha also had multiple stab wounds to her face, torso, shoulders, back, lungs, neck, legs, and her feet. The body contains a gallon of blood. Samantha's body only had 3 tablespoons of blood left, and she died within minutes. Bond was denied for Nathaniel, and he remained incarcerated at Richland County Jail until trial began on July 20, 2021. He pleaded not guilty. 31 witnesses were called by the prosecution team. They presented video evidence showing Nathaniel trying to use Samantha's debit card at both ATMs and when he was trying to sell her phone at the cell phone repair shop. They also provided evidence of Samantha's blood in her car and on items in a trash can at a residence that he lived in. Evidence that Rowland and Samantha's phone showed that they were at the same location for about 20 minutes before Samantha's phone powered off and her location stopped. There was also evidence that Nathaniel's phone showed that he was in the location where Samantha's body was found, which was just, again, a couple of miles away from his family home. Rowland's defense team didn't call any witnesses, and Rowland also didn't testify on his behalf. Their only defense was that Rowland's DNA was not found anywhere on Samantha, but they didn't explain that her DNA was, however, found under his fingernails, which was also proven by the prosecution team when they presented their case. Nathaniel's parents, Henry and Loretta Rowland, voiced that their son was innocent. They said that someone else was driving the Impala because Nathaniel was at a party passed out. They felt that the crime was out of Nathaniel's character and that their son was very religious.
No, if you did this thing, and tell me. That's all I want to know. Tell me the doggone truth.
A tearful plea from Henry Rowland, the father of accused killer Nate Rowland. His parents say they were shocked to learn their youngest child is now charged in the death of Samantha Josephson, whose body was found less than 3 miles from their home. Nate's mother, Loretta, says her son is innocent.
He is a very good young man. And when I talked to him, and I talked to him yesterday, and he told me, he said, that wasn't him. And I believe him. He said, that's not him.
The couple's other son says Nate was not in the car that surveillance video shows the USC student getting into.
My son was telling me that Nate passed out at a house party.
Yeah.
He checked his pockets when he woke up. He checked his pockets. He didn't have his keys. So he walked outside to try to find his vehicle. He found the vehicle, opened the door, seen his keys, and seen all the blood inside the vehicle.
The family is not allowed to visit Nate, but this is what his father wants him to know.
But if you didn't do it, I'm all out for you. You ain't got to worry about it. I'm behind you 100%. And I know he told me, he told my wife he didn't do it. And I know my wife ain't gonna lie about something like that. So I'm behind him 100%. But I can tell you one thing. My son is innocent. And I know that from the bottom of my heart.
Rowland's defense team tried to get the charges against him dropped right before they rested their case. Their argument was that prosecution had a circumstantial case because they didn't show that Rowland killed Samantha or was driving the black Chevy Impala. Anyway, Circuit Judge Clifton Newman declined their request due to the amount of direct and circumstantial evidence.
She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, a girlfriend, and a future law student. She was someone who had her whole life in front of her. All of it there for the taking. She didn't deserve this. Despite being all of those things, she was literally taken and cut down before the prime of her life. Stab wounds from her face to her feet, ear, head, neck, shoulder, arm, back, leg, feet. She was dragged into the woods and left alone, covered in her own blood, to rot. That Nathaniel Rowland must be held responsible for his actions. And they were his actions, mind you, his choices. Don't get distracted from the facts of this case. Nathaniel Rowland kidnapped Samantha Josephson. Nathaniel Rowland brutally murdered Samantha Josephson. And Nathaniel Rowland literally left her to rot. It was cold, malicious, and intentional. And he must be held responsible for those actions. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not about old Bud Light cans or cigarette butts. It's not about the reasons why Maria Howard decided that she had to drive his car. It is not about phone calls that the defendant may have made from one phone to another 2 weeks before all this went on. And it is certainly not about unrelated, unidentified individuals. This case is about holding Mr. Rowland responsible for the cold-blooded, malicious, and intentional acts that he committed when he murdered and kidnapped Samantha Josephson March the 29th, 2019. The ATM, Mountain Brook, Cellular City, the trash. These drawstrings, these Nike drawstrings. These drawstrings keeps coming back. They keep showing up. The dark pants, you see those in the ATM and at Cellular City. Drawstrings. Clearly Nate Rowland, identified by Mr. Williams as the person trying to sell the phone. Here's an ATM photo. What do you see sticking out below that jacket? That's a long, light-colored shirt. And what's found in the trash in Mountain Brook? I'm sorry, here are the pants. There's the long, light-colored shirt. And look what's found in the trash. A long, light-colored shirt. And what does it have on it? A whole bunch of blood. Keeps coming back to the clothes. The gloves. This person is wearing gloves. Nathaniel Rowland is wearing gloves. And what do we find? 2 gloves at Mountain Brook, one in the house, and this one in the trash with a discoloration consistent with having been touched by bleach. And bleach was found in his car. The jacket at the ATM, the same jacket found in his car. What did we learn about that jacket? There were striations, marks consistent with possible claw marks or scratch marks found on that jacket. The slides. Oh, the slides. These slides. Look at that ATM picture. red and black slides. Red and black slides taken out of the trunk and collected as evidence. What else? The bandana, right? The bandana. Look at that ATM photo. Dollar bills all over the ATM footage. The second time, when he realized he didn't have to hold his hand up here because he had the bandana that he always has, and he could use that to cover his face. So he did. The same bandana he's wearing at the traffic stop by Officer Kraft, the same bandana they take off of him that night. And of course, the toboggan or beanie, black with red writing there at Cellular City, and found in the back of his car. So the question is, why not throw it all away? Why did he only throw some of it away? The Nike hoodie, the dark pants, you gotta get rid of those. He's seen wearing those on Thursday. He's seen wearing them Friday. He's been wearing them for like 3 days. Gotta ditch those. No question. The tan shirt, we just saw it soaked in blood. Can't keep that around. The gloves, one of them's got some sort of weird discoloration on it. The other one has blood on it. But what about the jacket? Why didn't he get rid of the jacket? It's a dark jacket, folks. It's hard to see blood on that. But not only that, there is no way that he knew the significance of that jacket. There is no way that he knew that Lieutenant Shank would be able to come in here and tell you that those marks on that jacket were consistent with somebody clawing or scratching. No way he knew about those striations. What about the slides or the beanie or the bandana? Why not get rid of those? Simple. There's no visible blood on those things. No visible blood. But there was DNA on it. Samantha Josephson's DNA is on this beanie. And there was blood. Samantha Josephson's blood, her blood, is on this. But he couldn't see it. So he didn't think he had to get rid of it. You heard about Mountain Brook and all the evidence found in the trash there, where he tried to erase the evidence. There's the bleach, the wipes, the cleaners, the bloody clothes, the knife. Even the trash from his meal that he got at Wendy's was there, mixed in with everything else. And he dumped it all in the trash at Mountain Brook. Why did he do that? Well, he's not going to put it in the trash at his sister's house. He's not going to put it in the trash at his family's house in New Zion. And he's especially not going to do that when he doesn't think that there is any connection whatsoever between him and Mountain Brook. But what he wasn't counting on was that eviction letter. Remember the eviction letter that you saw earlier that Maria Howard wrote and left in his car? It had the Mountain Brook address on it. That is the only connection. That is the only way that anybody even knew to go look at the trash in Mountain Brook. If that hadn't been found, that trash never would have been found. The knife, the clothes, the wipes, the bleach, all that stuff would have been gone. It would have been gone. Cellular City. Again, this is video out front. Again, the trinket thing hanging down. What do you see in the back, as I mentioned earlier? White sheet. You remember Oshmer told you that Mr. Rowland had to go back out and get, I think, a SIM tray is what he called it, to go with Miss Josephson's phone. What do you see here? Mr. Rowland looking for it. He's rooting around looking for it. He's got to look under the sheet. And you'll also see here again, those drawstrings, they appear again. Right there. He's digging around trying to look under that sheet in the back, looking over in the side. So you heard about his prints on the list, you heard about his prints on the duct tape from the fingerprint analyst, but what else did she tell you? What's the last thing she told you about? Footprint. Samantha Josephson's footprints were on the window of Nathaniel Rowland's Impala. The inside. This was her cry for help. This was her way to try to get somebody to help her and save her from him. But it also, what it did, she left a trail. She left her own trail of evidence. Her own trail leading right to the defendant. You heard from the trace guy who talked about bleach and how there's all these items in the car consistent with bleach, and that bleach smells like chlorine, which interestingly is what Maria told you, that the car smelled like chlorine. And finally, the final expert you heard from was Dr. Bieber yesterday. You all remember that testimony. He told you about the wounds that she sustained, over 100 wounds all over her body. He went through some of the pictures with you. He described in graphic detail what happened to her. He talked about the blood loss, that there's over a gallon of blood in the human body, and there's just about this much left by the time she was found. He told you about this knife, and he told you that they were trying to figure out what kind of weapon could have caused these injuries. You have the pictures there, you look at them yourself. These weird parallel wounds, just like these two blades. And he told you that this is the unique weapon that did it. It's not just unique because it's got the two blades that are parallel, because he was confused. He said that there's single stab wounds too. Well, this one really is a multi-tool. Single stab wounds, parallel stab wounds. Nathaniel Rowland's knife is the one who killed Samantha Josephson. The crime occurred where all the blood is, and all the blood is in Nathaniel Rowland's car. Is it reasonable to think that this crime occurred anywhere other than in his car? You heard testimony about a significant bloodletting, was the term used by the crime scene agent. A significant bloodletting that occurred in that car. What have the themes been that we've discussed? I told you at the beginning of this closing argument that it was your job, take all the little pieces, all the facts, all of the evidence as it's presented to you, put it together, and use your common sense. Use your common sense to see a clear picture of what happened March 29, 2019. The clothing, talked about that ad nauseum. Where the body was found, a mile from his house. All of the videos showing the Impala driving around, her getting in the car. Mountain Brook, all the trash is found there, the blood, the knife, all the things tying him to that location. The forensic analysis of the phones, the fingerprints, the handwriting, the autopsy. When the smoke is cleared, the picture comes clearly into focus. A clear picture of what happened, and there is only one reasonable conclusion that you can make when you clear up that picture. That conclusion is Nathaniel Rowland is guilty. It was malicious, it was intentional, and it was cold-blooded. Ladies and gentlemen, the state of South Carolina humbly asks that upon consideration of all the evidence, you return a verdict and you find Nathaniel Rowland guilty of murder, guilty of kidnapping, and guilty of possessing a weapon. Thank you.
On July 27, 2021, the jury turns a verdict of guilty for kidnapping and murder. Nathaniel Rowland was sentenced to life in prison. He showed no remorse.
Mr. Rowland, during my time on the bench, I have presided over many murder trials, and they typically involve shootings. And with what seems to be an epidemic of criminal activity now, on a monthly basis, we encounter people accused of murder, people convicted of murder. This is the first time, however, that I've presided over a case where a victim was stabbed 120 times. The last case I participated in, where a victim was stabbed and tortured, resulted in a jury imposing the death penalty, which in this state is defined as murder accompanied by aggravating circumstances. And certainly a kidnapping is an aggravated circumstance. And I hear a lot of mothers tell me what a good child their child is. And quite often I have to unfortunately tell the same mothers and fathers that your child was a good child. But that's when he was a child. And my heart goes out to the Rowland family, as well as the Josephson's family. My heart goes out to someone from the same part of the state that I am from. You know, you participate in sports, and at East Clarendon, I presume you played basketball against C.E. Murray, did you? My high school. So I take no joy whatsoever. When I looked at the map that was shown to the jury, the telephone towers, when the officer or witness testified that there's another tower over here, the map showed that that tower is in King Street, where my chambers are. So this is painful, but not nearly as painful as the suffering by the Josephson family. Is there anything you would like to say?
Your Honor, I know I'm innocent. But I guess what I know and what I think really doesn't matter. I just wish the state would have done more in finding out who the actual person was, instead of being satisfied with detaining me and proving my guilt. I feel like if they would have done further research in certain areas. That's all, Your Honor.
But the evidence in this case was so overwhelming. 1,000 roads, each road led to you. There's 1,000 trails, each trail led to you. All of the evidence, every speck of the evidence, not simply beyond a reasonable doubt, but as high a standard as the law requires, all points to your guilt. And I am absolutely satisfied. And I have dealt with the heartless, and you fall into that category. A person without any remorse whatsoever. A person who is totally emotionless. And in the law we call it a depraved heart. And for whomever asked me for leniency, that's not part of my DNA. And sentencing in this case is not difficult. The sentence in this case is easy, though painful it may be. The sentence of the court for murder is that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for life. Any other sentence that can be imposed will be concurrent with life. Since you only have one life, that sentence must be served for the remaining days of your natural life.
After Samantha's death, her parents fought to establish the What's My Name Foundation. This foundation was designed to educate people about rideshare safety. On June 5, 2019, the Samantha Josephson Ride Sharing Safety Act was signed into law in South Carolina. The act requires rideshare vehicles to display license plate numbers on the front. The New Jersey Governor, Phil Murphy, also signed Samantha's law in June of 2019, with the addition into companies are to issue 2 credential place cards to drivers of rideshare vehicles. The place cards are required to be put in the driver and passenger side back windows, and the driver's name and photo and license plate number must be included on the card. Vehicles are also required to have an identification marker on the front and back windshield. Companies are also required to provide drivers with 2 barcodes that passengers can scan to confirm the driver. Samantha's Act was also passed in North Carolina and New York. Josephson's death prompted the University of South Carolina to launch a campaign titled What's My Name to help students stay safe while using ride-sharing services. On December 28, 2022, federal legislation authorizing a study of ride-sharing safety practices, with passage by the U.S. House and Senate, was sent to President Biden's desk. It was signed into law on January 5, 2023. Her parents were presented with her college degree.